The massive silver ships appeared in Earth's sky on a Tuesday morning. They came without warning, blocking out the sun over major cities across the globe. Each ship was bigger than a mountain, casting shadows that stretched for miles. People stopped on streets and pointed up at the sky. Children pressed their faces against school windows. News reporters scrambled to get cameras running. Commander Zexthel stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking down at the small blue planet below. He was tall and thin, with gray skin and 4 arms. His species had conquered hundreds of worlds. This was just another day at work for him. "Begin the standard scan," he told his crew. "I want a full report on this species within the hour." The scanner officer's tentacles moved quickly over the control panel. Data flowed across the screens. Zexthel watched the numbers and smiled. This would be easy. "Sir, the scan is complete," the officer reported. "The species calls themselves humans. They are Category 7 inferior," Zexthel nodded. Category 7 was the lowest rating the Empire gave to intelligent species. It meant they were barely worth conquering, but the Empire took every world, even the worthless ones. "Tell me about them," Zexthel said. The scanner officer read from his screen. "They live only about 80 of their years, sir, very short lives. They are weak creatures. Their bones break easily. They have poor eyesight. No natural weapons like claws or venom. They cannot even see in the dark." "What about their technology?" Zexthel asked. "Primitive chemical rockets, sir?" "They have only just reached their own. Moon. Their weapons are simple explosives and metal projectiles. They have no energy shields, no faster-than-light travel. They are at least 1,000 years behind us." Zexthel laughed. "And their society? Chaotic, sir?" "They are divided into nearly 200 separate groups they call nations. These nations fight each other constantly. They cannot agree on anything. They speak hundreds of different languages. They follow different religions. Their political systems are all different. They are incapable of unity." Perfect," Zexthel said. "Send the standard surrender message. This should be over by tomorrow." The message was broadcast to every communication device on Earth. It appeared on television screens, radio broadcasts, and computer monitors. The message was simple and direct, translated into all major human languages. "Greetings, humans of Earth. We are the Galactic Empire. We have studied your species and found you lacking in all measures of civilization. Your technology is primitive. Your society is chaotic. Your biology is weak. However, the Empire is merciful. We offer you terms of surrender. Submit to Imperial rule, and you will be allowed to continue existing as a client species. You will be given simple tasks suited to your limited abilities. You will be fed and housed. You will be protected from yourselves and others. You have 24 hours to respond with your complete and unconditional surrender. Failure to surrender will result in pacification by force. This is the only warning you will receive." The message ended. Across Earth, people stared at their screens in shock. In the White House, the president called an emergency meeting. In the Kremlin, the Russian leader gathered his advisors. In Beijing, the Chinese premier convened the Politburo. In London, the prime minister summoned parliament. Similar scenes played out in every capital city on Earth, but something unexpected happened. Instead of panic and chaos, the world's leaders began talking to each other. Phone calls were made, video conferences were arranged, emergency sessions were called at the United Nations. On his ship, Zexthel waited for the surrender message. He had conquered 47 worlds in his career. He knew how this worked. First came the panic. Then came desperate attempts to hide or fight. Then came the begging and pleading. Finally came the surrender. It always happened the same way. His communication officer approached him. "Sir, we are receiving a transmission from the planet. Already?" Zexthel was surprised. "They are surrendering. Quickly, even for a Category 7 species." "Actually, sir, they are not surrendering. They are requesting a formal diplomatic meeting." Zexthel's 4 eyes blinked in confusion. "A what?" "They want to meet with you, sir, to discuss terms. They say they need time to consider your offer properly." Zexthel had never heard of such. A thing. Species either surrendered immediately or fought uselessly and then surrendered. Nobody asked for meetings. What exactly did they say? He asked. The communication officer read from his screen. They say they represent something called the United Nations of Earth. They acknowledge receipt of our message. They say they appreciate our offer but need time to discuss it properly with all human governments. They request a diplomatic meeting within 72 hours to discuss terms and conditions. Zexthel was quiet for a long moment. This was not in the manual. He had studied the standard imperial procedures for conquest. There was no section on diplomatic meetings with inferior species. Sir, his tactical officer said, perhaps they are trying to buy time to prepare defenses. Zexthel considered this. What defenses could they possibly prepare? Their weapons cannot even scratch our hull. Their fastest ships would take months to reach us. They have no energy shields, no plasma weapons, no quantum processors. They are using radio waves to communicate for the Empire's sake. Then what do they want? The tactical officer asked. I think, Zexthel said slowly, they do not understand the situation. They think this is some kind of negotiation. They think they have a choice in the matter, the bridge crew laughed. The idea was absurd. No species had ever negotiated with. The Empire decided what happened. The Empire had the biggest ships and the most advanced weapons. The Empire had conquered half the galaxy. Sir, the scanner officer said, our long-range sensors are detecting increased activity on the planet. There are many more radio transmissions than usual. Their communication networks are very busy. They are probably arguing among themselves. Zexthel said, remember, they are chaotic and divided. They cannot agree on anything. They are probably fighting about whether to surrender or not. But on Earth, something very different was happening. In meeting rooms and conference halls around the world, the greatest minds humanity had ever produced were working together. Scientists, engineers, military leaders, and diplomats were sharing information at a rate never seen before. Dr. Sarah Chun, a physicist at MIT, was on a video call with colleagues in 12 countries. The energy readings from their ships are incredible, she said, but look at the patterns. There are gaps in their defensive coverage. General Morrison from the Pentagon was talking to his counterparts in Russia, China, and NATO countries. They are assuming we will fight like everyone else has fought them, he said, but we know how everyone else fought them. We can see the patterns. In Geneva, the UN Secretary General was coordinating with world leaders. We need to buy time. She said, every hour we delay gives our people more time to prepare. The Empire's own databases had been their downfall. Every species they had conquered had been studied and catalogued. The Empire kept detailed records of every battle, every strategy, every failure. They had broadcast these records throughout the galaxy as proof of their power, but humans had been listening. Human radio telescopes had been picking up Imperial transmissions for decades. Human computers had been analyzing Imperial tactics. And technology. The Empire thought they were facing a primitive, divided species. But they were actually facing a species that had been studying them for years. A species that had learned from the mistakes of every other world the Empire had conquered. On his ship, Zexthel made his decision. We will meet with them, he said. It will be amusing to see what they think they can negotiate. After we explain reality to them, they will surrender properly. He had no idea that he was about to walk into the most carefully planned trap in galactic history. The meeting took place in the United Nations building in New York. Commander Zexthel had agreed to come down to the planet with a small diplomatic team. He thought it would be quick and simple. He would explain how weak humans were, and they would surrender immediately. The UN Assembly Hall was packed with representatives from every nation on Earth. Cameras from around the world were filming everything. Zexthel walked to the center of the room with his 3 assistants. He stood, nearly 8 feet tall, his gray skin gleaming under the lights. His forearms moved as he spoke, and his voice was deep and commanding. Humans of Earth, he began, I am Commander Zexthel of the Galactic Empire. I have come to explain your situation so there will be no confusion. The UN Secretary-General Maria Santos stood at the podium facing him. We welcome you, Commander. We are ready to listen. Zexthel activated a holographic projector. Images appeared in the air above the assembly hall. The first image showed a human skeleton next to skeletons from other species the Empire had conquered. Let us begin with biology, Zexthel said. Your bones are made of calcium carbonate, one of the weakest structural materials in the galaxy. The average human bone can be broken with only 200 pounds of pressure. Compare this to the Krallics, species whose bones required 3,000 pounds of pressure to break. Yet we conquered them in 4 days. He gestured to another image. Your muscles are inefficient protein fibers. The strongest human can lift perhaps 3 times their body weight. The Therian warriors could lift 20 times their body weight. They also fell to the Empire. More images appeared. Your eyes can only see a tiny portion of the electromagnetic spectrum. You cannot see ultraviolet or infrared light. You cannot see in darkness. The Zephyrians had perfect vision across 12 spectrums and could see clearly in complete darkness. This did not save them. Secretary-General Santos listened carefully. She took notes. Around the hall, other delegates were also writing down. Everything, Zexthel said. Your hearing is limited to a narrow range of frequencies, Zexthel continued. Your sense of smell is almost non-existent compared to other species. You have no natural weapons. No claws, no fangs, no poison, no stingers. You cannot even run very fast. Dr. James Peterson, the head of human delegation, raised his hand. These are very interesting facts, Commander. Please continue. Zexthel was pleased. The humans were accepting their inferiority without argument. This was going better than expected. Now, let us discuss your technology, he said. The hologram changed to show human rockets and spaceships. You use chemical combustion for propulsion. This is the most primitive form of space travel possible. Your fastest spacecraft would take you 40,000 years to reach the nearest star. He showed images of human weapons. Your military uses gunpowder explosives and metal projectiles. You have discovered nuclear fusion, but you use it to make crude bombs instead of proper energy weapons. Your computers are electronic rather than quantum. Your communications rely on radio waves, which are easily intercepted and blocked. General Harrison from the U.S. military leaned forward. How do your ships travel between stars, Commander? We use quantum tunneling drives, Zexthel said proudly. We can cross the galaxy in weeks instead of millennia. We have plasma weapons. That can destroy mountains. Our shields can deflect any attack. Our computers can calculate 1 trillion possibilities in microseconds. The general nodded and wrote more notes. Fascinating. Please tell us more. Zexthel was enjoying himself. These humans were so eager to learn about their superiors. He activated new images showing human society. Your civilization is chaotic and inefficient, he said. You are divided into 195 separate nations. These nations constantly fight each other over resources, territory, and beliefs. In the last century alone, you have fought 2 major global wars and countless smaller conflicts. The hologram showed a map of Earth with different colored regions. You speak over 7,000 different languages. You follow hundreds of different religions. Your political systems are all different. Some are democracies, some are dictatorships, some are monarchies. You cannot agree on simple things like how to measure distance or temperature. Dr. Lisa Wang from the Chinese delegation spoke up. How does the Empire maintain unity across so many worlds? Simple, Zexthel replied. 1 government, 1 language. 1 set of laws, 1 way of thinking. When we conquer a species, we eliminate their inefficient diversity. Everyone follows imperial standards. Everyone serves the Empire. It is much more efficient. The human delegates exchanged glances. More notes were written. Your economic systems are also chaotic, Zexthel continued. You use something called money instead of logical resource distribution. Some humans have vast wealth while others have nothing. This creates constant conflict and inefficiency. The Empire assigns each being a role based on their abilities and provides what they need. No waste, no inequality, no conflict. Ambassador Rodriguez from Brazil asked, "How do you determine what role each being should have?" "Through scientific testing," Zexthel said. "We measure intelligence, physical capabilities, psychological profiles, and genetic potential. Each being is assigned the role they are best suited for. Humans would likely be assigned to simple manual labor or basic manufacturing. You're emotional. Instability makes you unsuitable for complex tasks." The humans in the assembly hall remained calm and quiet. They continued taking notes. Zexthel found this encouraging. They were accepting their fate without resistance. "Let me show you examples of species that thought they could resist," he said. The hologram displayed images of destroyed cities and conquered worlds. The Altarians had technology almost as advanced as ours. They lasted 6 months. The vegan Confederacy had a unified government spanning 12 star systems. They fell in 3 weeks. The Silicon Masters were pure artificial intelligence with no biological weaknesses. They were defeated in 5 days. He paused for effect. Each of these species made the same mistake. They thought they were special. They thought they could find a way to defeat the Empire. They were wrong. Secretary General Santos stood up. "Commander, we appreciate you sharing this information with us. It is very educational. We would like to request more time to discuss these facts with all human governments." "How much time?" Zexthel asked. 1 week, she said. Zexthel laughed. "Impossible. The Empire does not wait. You have already had 3 days. You will surrender today, or we will begin pacification tomorrow." Dr. Peterson stood up. "Commander, you have shown us many impressive facts about Imperial technology and past conquests. But you have also told us that the Empire prefers to avoid unnecessary destruction. Surely 1 week is a small price to pay for a peaceful surrender rather than having to damage valuable infrastructure and workers." Zexthel considered this. The human made a good point. Damaged planets were less useful to the Empire. And humans seemed to be accepting their fate. They were not making threats or impossible demands. They just wanted time to organize their surrender properly. "Very well," he said, 1 week. "But understand this, the Empire's patience has limits. Do not mistake our mercy for weakness." "Of course not, Commander," Secretary General Santos said. "We understand completely." As the meeting ended, Zexthel felt satisfied. The humans had listened to every word about their inferiority. They had asked intelligent questions about Imperial technology and methods. They had not argued or made ridiculous claims about defeating the Empire. They were behaving exactly as a defeated species should behave. What Zexthel did not know was that every word he had spoken was being analyzed by teams of human scientists and strategists around the world. Every detail about Imperial technology was being studied. Every weakness in past conquests was being examined. Every assumption the Empire made about human behavior was being carefully noted. The humans had not been accepting their fate. They had been gathering intelligence. As the Imperial delegation returned to their ships, Dr. Peterson turned to Secretary General Santos. "Did you get everything?" "Every word," she replied. "Our teams are already working on it." "Good," Peterson said. "Now we know exactly what they think of us. And we know exactly how wrong they are." Around the world, the real work was beginning. In laboratories and military bases, in universities and research centers, humanity was preparing to prove that everything the Empire believed about them was completely and utterly false. Commander Zexthel was getting impatient. 5 days had passed since the diplomatic meeting, and the humans still had not surrendered. They kept sending messages asking for more time and requesting additional meetings. This was not how conquests were supposed to work. "Sir," his communication officer reported, "we are receiving another transmission from the planet." "Let me guess," Zexthel said with annoyance. "They want another extension." "Actually, no, sir. They are asking if we would be willing to demonstrate our superior technology. They say it would help convince the remaining holdout nations to surrender." "Zexthel, was surprised. This was more reasonable. Sometimes inferior species needed to see imperial power before they would accept reality. What kind of demonstration do they want? They are asking us to disable some of their old satellites, sir. They say it would show our precision and technological superiority without harming anyone. This made sense to Zexthel. It was a smart request from the humans. They understood that some of their people needed proof of imperial power. Very well. Target their obsolete satellites. Make it precise and clean. The Imperial fleet moved into position. Energy beams lanced out from the ships, striking old communication satellites with perfect accuracy. Each satellite was destroyed instantly, vaporized by controlled plasma bursts. The demonstrations were visible from Earth as brief flashes of light in the sky. What Zexthel did not know was that humans had been watching very carefully. Every energy beam was tracked by thousands of amateur astronomers with telescopes. Military radar stations recorded the exact frequencies and power levels. Scientists measured the energy signatures and analyzed the beam patterns. Dr. Sarah Chun was in a laboratory at MIT studying the data with her team. "Look at this," she said, pointing at her computer screen. "Their plasma beams have a very specific frequency signature. And see this pattern here? There's a 2-second charging delay between shots." "That's not all," said Dr. Kumar from the Indian Space Research Organization, speaking through a video link. "Our radar shows their ships have to rotate slightly to target different locations. Their weapons are fixed mount, not turret-based." General Morrison was in the Pentagon War Room, coordinating with military leaders from around the world. "We're learning more about their capabilities every hour," he told the Joint Chiefs. "They're powerful, but they're not invincible. They have patterns and limitations." Meanwhile, Zexthel decided to increase the pressure on the humans. He ordered his ships to create atmospheric disturbances over major cities. The Imperial vessels used gravity manipulators to generate severe thunderstorms and high winds. The message was clear: surrender now, or face worse consequences. The storm struck New York, London, Beijing, Moscow, and dozens of other cities simultaneously. Rain fell in torrents. Lightning cracked across the sky. Winds howled through the streets. It was an impressive display of imperial power that should have terrified the humans into immediate surrender, but something unexpected happened. Instead of panic and chaos, the storms revealed something the Empire had never seen before. Every human with a camera phone began recording. Every person with internet access began sharing information. The storm data was uploaded to global networks within minutes. "Sir," the Imperial scanner officer reported with confusion, "the humans are not responding as expected to our demonstration." "What do you mean?" Zexthel asked. "They are not hiding or panicking, sir. They are studying us. Our sensors detect millions of electronic devices pointed at our ships. They are recording everything we do." Zexthel laughed. "Let them record. What good will it do them? They are seeing our superiority. This should make them surrender faster." "But—" the scanner officer looked worried. "Sir, there is something else. Their global communication network has become extremely active. Data is flowing between their nations at unprecedented rates. They are coordinating on a scale we have never observed. In any species, impossible," Zexthel said. "They are chaotic and divided. They cannot coordinate anything properly." "The data suggests otherwise, sir. Every nation on the planet is sharing information. Their scientists are working together across all political boundaries. Even nations that are normally enemies are cooperating." This troubled Zexthel. The Empire's research had shown that humans were incapable of global unity. They were supposed to be arguing among themselves about whether to surrender. Instead, they seemed to be working together. "What are they coordinating?" he asked. "Unknown, sir. Their encryption methods are more sophisticated than we expected. We can see the data flow but cannot read the content." Dr. Peterson was in a secure facility beneath the Swiss Alps, coordinating the global response with leaders from every major nation. Banks of computers were processing data from around the world. Scientists, engineers, and military experts were working together in ways that had never happened before in human history. The storm analysis is complete, reported Dr. Yamamoto from Japan. Their gravity manipulators work by creating localized space-time distortions. We've mapped the energy patterns and identified the source points on their ships. Excellent, Peterson said. What about their movement patterns? General Petrov from Russia spoke up through the video link. Their ships maintain fixed positions relative to each other. They move as a formation, not as individual units. This suggests their coordination systems have limitations. And their scanning capabilities? Peterson asked. Sophisticated but focused, replied Dr. Okafor from Nigeria. They can scan deep into our planet, but only in narrow beams. They cannot monitor everything at once. Around the world, humanity was working with a unity and efficiency that would have shocked the Empire if they had understood what was happening. The Internet, which the Empire had dismissed as a primitive communication system, had become the nervous system of a global coordination effort. In hidden facilities and research centers, human scientists were reverse engineering imperial technology from the demonstrations. In military bases, strategists were developing new tactics based on observed imperial weaknesses. In manufacturing plants, workers were building new equipment designed specifically to counter imperial advantages. The Empire had made a critical error. They had assumed that human disunity was permanent and unchangeable. They had not considered that an external threat might unite humanity in ways that nothing else ever could. Zexthel was becoming concerned. His advisors were reporting anomalies that did not match any previous conquest. Sir, his tactical officer said, our extended scans are detecting unusual activity on the planet's surface. What kind of activity? Manufacturing, sir. Large-scale production in facilities we did not detect before. They appear to be building something, but our scans cannot penetrate their new shielding. Shielding? Zexthel was alarmed. They do not have shielding technology. They do now, sir. It appears to be a hybrid of their existing materials science and principles derived from our own demonstrations. This was impossible. No species had ever reverse-engineered imperial technology so quickly. The Empire's scientists had assured him that human brains were too simple to understand advanced physics. How long have they been working on this? He demanded. Based on energy consumption patterns, they began large-scale projects immediately after our first demonstration, sir. They have been using our own shows of force to study our technology. Zexthel felt a chill of worry. Send another message to their leaders. Tell them their time is up. They must surrender immediately. The message was sent, but the human response was not what he expected. Instead of surrender, the humans sent a polite reply asking for just one more day to complete their preparations for the surrender ceremony. They said they wanted to do it properly, with representatives from every nation present. They are stalling, Zexthel told his officers. But what are they stalling for? They cannot possibly think they can fight us? His science officer, who had been quietly analyzing data, spoke up. Sir, I am detecting some concerning patterns in their behavior. Explain. Every species we have conquered followed predictable patterns when faced with superior force. First, panic, then desperate attempts at resistance, then acceptance of defeat. But humans are not following these patterns at all. What are they doing instead? They appear to be learning, sir. Every demonstration we make, every piece of information we provide, they absorb and analyze. Their response is not emotional as, we expected, it is ... systematic. Zexthel was quiet for a long moment. Something was wrong here. The humans were not behaving like any species the Empire had encountered before. They were not giving up, but they were not fighting either. They were doing something else entirely. Sir, the communication officer interrupted, we are receiving a transmission from the human leaders. Put it through. Secretary General Santos appeared on the screen. She looked calm and confident. Commander Zexthel, we have completed our preparations. We are ready to give you our final answer tomorrow at noon Earth time. Your final answer had better be complete surrender, Zexthel warned. Santos smiled slightly. Oh, it will be final, Commander. I can promise you that. The transmission ended? Zexthel stared at the blank screen, feeling uneasy. Something in the human leader's tone had been wrong. She had sounded too confident, too calm. She had sounded like someone who knew something he did. Commander Zexthel waited for noon to arrive. His fleet was in perfect formation above Earth, ready to begin the pacification bombardment if the humans refused to surrender. He had done this many times before. By the end of the day, Earth would be another Imperial colony. At exactly noon Earth time, Secretary General Santos appeared on the communication screen. She was standing in what looked like the same UN assembly hall where they had first met, but something was different. Behind her, instead of the usual mix of worried human faces, Zexthel saw confident smiles and calm expressions. Commander Zexthel, Santos began, we have reached our decision regarding your generous offer of surrender. Finally, Zexthel muttered, and what is your decision? Santos looked directly into the camera. We respectfully decline. Zexthel blinked his 4 eyes in surprise. You what? We decline your offer, Commander. Earth will not surrender to the Galactic Empire. For a moment, Zexthel was speechless. No species had ever simply declined Imperial conquest. They fought and lost, or they surrendered immediately. Nobody just said, no, you do not understand, he said slowly. This is not a negotiation. You cannot decline. You will surrender, or you will be destroyed. Actually, Commander, Santos replied with a smile, I think you are the one who does not understand. You see, we have been very busy this past week. We took your advice and studied the superior Imperial technology. We learned quite a lot. Impossible? Zexthel snapped. Your primitive brains cannot comprehend our technology. Perhaps you should look outside your ship, Santos suggested. Zexthel turned to his tactical officer. Report what is happening. On the planet? The officer's face had gone pale. Sir, there are objects rising from the planetary surface. Objects? What kind of objects? Unknown, sir. They appear to be spacecraft, but they do not match any human technology in our databases. Zexthel rushed to the main view screen. What he saw made his 4 hearts skip a beat. Rising from Earth were hundreds of sleek vessels unlike anything in Imperial records. They were not the crude chemical rockets the Empire had expected. These ships moved with the smooth grace of advanced propulsion systems. How is this possible? He whispered on the communication screen. Santos was still speaking. You taught us so much about Imperial technology, Commander. Your plasma weapons, with their 2-second charging delay. Your fixed-mount weapon systems that require the entire ship to rotate for targeting. Your formation flying patterns that prioritize impressive displays over tactical flexibility. The Imperial scanner officer's voice was shaking. Sir, these human vessels are using some kind of hybrid propulsion system. It appears to combine their chemical rockets with principles derived from our quantum drives. Sir, the weapons officer added, they are jamming our targeting systems. Our plasma cannons cannot lock onto them. Zexthel could not believe what he was hearing. Use the gravity disruptors? Create atmospheric disturbances like before. Sir, the gravity disruptors are not responding. Something is interfering with our space-time manipulation systems. Santos continued her explanation on the screen. We also learned about your gravity manipulators, Commander. Fascinating technology. But once we understood how they work, it was quite easy to develop countermeasures. You showed us exactly how to do it during your storm demonstrations. The human ships were now surrounding the Imperial fleet. They moved in complex patterns that seemed random but were clearly coordinated. The Empire's mighty vessels, built to intimidate and overwhelm, suddenly looked clumsy and slow in comparison. This is impossible, Zexthel repeated. You are Category 7 inferior. You cannot have developed this technology in 1 week. Ah, but that is where you made your biggest mistake, Commander, Santos said. You assumed we started from nothing. But humans have been watching Imperial transmissions for decades. We have been studying your technology, your tactics, and your weaknesses for years. We just needed you to confirm our theories and fill in the missing pieces." The tactical officer's report was increasingly panicked. "Sir, more vessels are emerging from the planet. They appear to be coming from underground facilities we never detected. Our deep scans showed no such installations. Because we built them." "After you arrived," Santos explained, as if she could hear the Imperial communications. "Your scanner beams have very specific patterns, Commander. Once we mapped them, it was simple to hide our construction in your blind spots." Zaxthel was beginning to understand the terrible truth. The humans had not been preparing to surrender. They had been preparing to fight. And they had been preparing for years. "Begin the bombardment," he ordered desperately. "Destroy all human vessels immediately." "Sir, our weapons are not responding properly. The humans are using some kind of interference that disrupts our plasma generation systems. Use backup systems, use emergency protocols, use anything." The Imperial ships tried to fire, but their mighty plasma cannons sputtered and failed. Decades of Imperial superiority had made them lazy. They had never needed backup systems because no enemy had ever challenged their primary weapons. Santos was still talking. "You told us about all the species you conquered, Commander. The Altarians with their advanced technology. The Vegan Confederacy with their unity. The Silicon Masters with their artificial intelligence. We studied every one of your victories and learned from their defeats." The human ships began to attack, but they did not fight like any species the Empire had encountered. Instead of direct confrontation, they used hit-and-run tactics. Small, fast vessels darted in to strike specific targets on the Imperial ships, then vanished before the Empire could respond. "Sir, they are targeting our weapon systems specifically. They know exactly where our vulnerabilities are. Sir, they are also targeting our communication arrays. Our formation coordination is breaking down. Sir, some of our ships are reporting engine problems. The humans seem to know exactly which systems to attack." Zaxthel watched in growing horror as his perfect Imperial fleet began to fall apart. The humans were not fighting a conventional battle. They were dismantling his ships, piece by piece, system by system, with surgical precision. "How do they know our weak points?" he demanded. Santos answered his question. "Because you told us, Commander. When you described your previous conquests, you revealed your standard tactics. When you demonstrated your weapons, you showed us their limitations. When you explained your technology, you gave us the keys to defeating it. The human attack was relentless but precise. They disabled Imperial weapons without destroying the ships. They cut communication lines without killing crew members. They were not trying to massacre the Imperial fleet. They were trying to capture it." "Sir," the communication officer reported, "we are receiving a transmission on all frequencies. It appears to be coming from every human vessel simultaneously. Put it through." Dr. Peterson's voice filled the Imperial bridge. "Attention, Imperial fleet, you are surrounded and outmatched. Your weapons are disabled and your communications are compromised. You have two choices. Surrender immediately and you will be treated well according to Earth's laws of war. Continue fighting and we will be forced to take more aggressive action." Zaxthel was speechless. A human, a member of a Category 7 inferior species, was demanding his surrender. "Sir," the tactical officer said quietly, "our situation is critical. Half our weapons are offline. Our engines are operating at 30% capacity. Our shields are failing, and they have us completely surrounded." On the view screen, Zaxthel could see hundreds of human vessels in perfect formation around his fleet. They moved with coordination that put Imperial formations to shame. Every ship was exactly where it needed to be for maximum tactical advantage. "You said we were chaotic and divided," Santos said from the communication screen. "You said we could never work together. But you gave us something to unite against, Commander. You gave us a common enemy." Zaxthel looked around his bridge at his terrified crew. These were Imperial soldiers who had conquered dozens of worlds. Now they looked like frightened children facing something they could not understand. "Sir," the scanner officer whispered, Long-range sensors are detecting more human vessels approaching from other parts of their solar system. It appears they have been building ships on their moon and asteroid installations as well. The trap was complete. The humans had not just prepared to defend their homeworld. They had prepared to capture an entire Imperial fleet. Every assumption the Empire had made about humanity had been wrong. They were not weak. They were not divided. They were not primitive. They were the most dangerous enemy the Empire had ever faced. "Commander," Santos said gently, "what is your decision?" Commander Zexthal stared at the view screen in silence. Around him, his bridge crew waited for orders that he could not give. The greatest fleet in Imperial history was trapped by a species they had classified as inferior just 1 week ago. "Sir?" his tactical officer whispered. "What are your orders?" Zexthal closed his 4 eyes. In his mind, he could hear the voices of 1,000 Imperial admirals teaching him the principles of conquest. Always attack from a position of strength. Never show weakness to inferior species. The Empire never surrenders, but the Empire had never faced humanity before. "Open a channel to the human fleet," he said quietly. "Sir?" "Open the channel." Dr. Peterson's face appeared on the screen. He looked calm and professional, not like someone who had just defeated the most powerful military force in the galaxy. "Commander," Peterson said, "I am waiting for your answer." Zexthal looked around his bridge one more time. His weapons were disabled. His shields were failing. His crew was terrified. He had no choice. "The Imperial fleet surrenders?" he said. The words felt strange in his mouth. In 500 years of Imperial expansion, no Imperial commander had ever spoken those words. "Thank you, Commander," Peterson replied. "You and your crew will be treated according to international law. Please prepare for boarding parties. Do not resist and no one will be harmed." The transmission ended. Within minutes, small human shuttles were docking with Imperial ships throughout the fleet. Zexthal watched through his viewports as human soldiers boarded his flagship. They moved with professional efficiency, securing weapons and taking control of critical systems. The humans who entered his bridge were not what he had expected. They were calm and respectful. They did not gloat over their victory or treat the Imperial crew with cruelty. They simply did their job. "Commander Zexthal," said the human officer in charge, "I am Colonel Martinez of the Earth Defense Force. You and your senior staff will be transferred to a secure facility for debriefing. Your crew will be housed in comfortable quarters until diplomatic arrangements can be made." "Diplomatic arrangements?" Zexthal asked. "Earth has no desire for a prolonged war with the Galactic Empire," Martinez explained. "We hope this incident can be resolved peacefully." As Zexthal was escorted from his ship, he looked back at the mighty Imperial fleet. Every vessel was now under human control. The most powerful military force in the galaxy had been defeated without a single ship being destroyed. He was taken to a facility deep underground on Earth. His quarters were comfortable, but clearly a prison. For the first time in his long military career, Zexthal was a prisoner of war. Days passed in isolation. Zexthal had nothing to do but think about what had happened. Every assumption the Empire had made about humanity had been wrong. Every fact in their databases had been incomplete or misunderstood. Humans were not weak. They had used their apparent weakness to make the Empire underestimate them. They were not divided. The threat of conquest had united them more completely than any species in Imperial records. They were not primitive. They had taken Imperial technology and improved upon it in ways Imperial scientists had never imagined. After a week, Secretary General Santos came to visit him. She sat across from him in his cell, looking tired but satisfied. "How?" was the only question Zexthal could ask. Santos smiled sadly. "You really want to know?" He nodded. "We have been listening to Imperial transmissions for 50 years, she began. Every conquest, every battle, every technical specification, we recorded it all. We studied every species you defeated and learned from their mistakes." She leaned forward. "But the real secret was that you told us everything we needed to know. You were so confident in your superiority that you explained exactly how you conquered other worlds. You showed us your weapons. You demonstrated your tactics. You revealed your weaknesses. We thought you were surrendering, Zexthel said quietly. We were learning, Santos corrected. Every piece of information you gave us was analyzed by teams of scientists. Every demonstration you made was recorded and studied. We used your own knowledge against you. But how did you build those ships so quickly? We had been building them. For years, Santos explained. We just hid them from your scanners. When you arrived, we simply moved them into position and added the final components based on what we learned from you. Zexthel felt a deep shame. He had been outsmarted by a species the Empire considered barely intelligent. What happens now? He asked. That depends on the Empire, Santos said. We have sent a message to your homeworlds. We explained what happened here and made our position clear. What position? Earth claims the right to exist as a free and independent world. We will not be conquered by anyone. We are willing to discuss peaceful relations with the Empire, but only as equals. Zexthel laughed bitterly. The Empire does not negotiate with inferior species. Then the Empire has a problem, Santos said simply. Because we are not inferior. You just proved that by losing to us. News of the defeat spread across the galaxy faster than Imperial censors could stop it. On 1,000 conquered worlds, subject species heard the impossible story. Humanity, a Category 7 species, had defeated an entire Imperial fleet without losing a single ship on the Altarian colonies. The descendants of the technologically advanced species the Empire had conquered began to whisper among themselves. If humans could defeat the Empire, perhaps they had been wrong about their own capabilities on the vegan worlds. The scattered remnants of the once great Confederacy began to remember what unity had felt like before the Empire arrived. On the Silicon Master facilities, artificial intelligences that had accepted Imperial dominance began to recalculate their options. The Empire's greatest strength had always been the belief that resistance was impossible. Every species they conquered became proof that the Empire could not be defeated. But humanity had shattered that belief in a single week. Emperor Valdris himself reviewed the reports from Earth. He read them 3 times, unable to believe what had happened. Commander Zexthel, one of his best officers, had surrendered an entire fleet to a primitive species. How is this possible? He demanded of his advisors. The humans appeared to have been more advanced than our initial assessments indicated, said. Science advisor Krelix, more advanced, the Emperor roared. They were using chemical rockets. They had no energy weapons. They were fighting each other constantly. Our information may have been incomplete, Krelix admitted. The Emperor was quiet for a long time. The Empire controlled half the galaxy because every species believed resistance was futile. If word spread that humanity had successfully resisted, it could inspire rebellions across Imperial space. What do the humans want? He asked finally. They want to be left alone, reported diplomatic advisor Thizes. They claim the right to exist as an independent species. They offer to return our fleet and personnel in exchange for a promise that the Empire will not attack them again. And if we refuse? Thizes hesitated. They have made it clear that they consider this only the beginning of their preparations. They suggest that future Imperial expeditions might face even stronger resistance. The Emperor considered his options. He could send more fleets to Earth, but the humans had proven they could defeat Imperial forces. He could try to negotiate, but the Empire had never negotiated with conquered species before, or he could accept that the Empire had limits on Earth. Zexthel was writing in a journal that his human captors had provided. He wrote about everything that had happened, trying to understand how the Empire's greatest strength had become their greatest weakness. We were wrong about everything, he wrote. We measured their bones, but not their will. We counted their weapons, but not their creativity. We analyzed their conflicts, but missed their ability to unite against a common enemy. We thought their diversity made them weak, but it made them adaptable. We thought their emotions made them unpredictable, but it made them determined. We thought their short lives made them desperate, but it made them focused. Most importantly, we thought our knowledge made us superior, but our arrogance made us blind. We told them everything they needed to defeat us because we never imagined they were capable of learning. He set down his pen and looked out the window of his cell. In the distance, he could see human cities rebuilding and expanding. Construction crews were working on new facilities. The sky was filled with the ships of a species the Empire had dismissed as primitive. "The galaxy will never be the same," he wrote in his final entry. "For 500 years, the Empire has taught the galaxy that resistance is impossible. Humanity has proven that we were wrong, not just about them, but about everything. They did not just defeat us. They showed every species in the galaxy that the Empire can be beaten. They showed that our science was incomplete, our assumptions were false, and our certainty was an illusion. The Empire will survive this defeat. But the idea of imperial supremacy will not. Humanity has changed the galaxy forever, and they did it by proving that we never understood what strength really means." Outside his window, the ships of Earth continued their patrol of the solar system, ready to defend their world against any threat. Humanity had met the Galactic Empire and proved every word of theirs wrong. And in doing so, they had given hope to every species that had ever dreamed of freedom.